I'm Mark Dobson. I'm from Donnellson, Iowa. My farm is 400 acres of certified organic. I farm about 100 acres of commercial operation. I strip till them, both of those, and then I do somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 acres of custom strip till as well. For me, a lot of it is you're talking a system with limited nutrient inputs. So for me, it's about the placement of nutrients and the plants having roots available in the extraction zone to pull them nutrients back out is why I like it so much in the organic system. Mine is actually set up with a caddy, and then it's pulled behind it, and I have a Montag dry fertilizer box on the caddy, and that's what I'm currently using. It's a ZML toolbar that I use. It's a plethora of different things. So I work for enough farmers custom-wise that it's 3 or 4 different retailers that I use or that they use. A lot of times I'm just putting on mixes. If I get to make them, there'll be several elements. Obviously N, P, and K, but on my own acres we end up doing a lot of. I do pelletized gypsum now. We use quite a bit of elemental sulfur if it's in the fall. Got to where I'm using some manganese sulfate, some boron, zinc usually on anything going to corn. So quite a few nutrients. And then this year's my first year. I had a true twin bin with 2 scales, so I was able to even make my own blends on the fly and be able to run 2-product VRT. So that kind of changes things up a little bit too, allows for more tailored nutrient programs. So I do corn, soybeans, and wheat, and then a few other small grains, but basically that's my big 3 for my rotation. So I believe it or not, I do not do strip till on the corn because it gets a full tillage program, and I get to put the majority of my nutrients on it via manure. So I strip till the beans with pelletized gypsum and sulfate of potash, SOP, are both OMRI approved. So I do that ahead of the bean just because I don't have a fresh nutrient source going to them. So I strip till my soybeans. So my farm, actually last year was probably the first year that 100% of everything I farmed had something growing on it in the wintertime. So I've been doing cover crops since about 2006, and I've strip tilled into them a lot. It works very well. It's another system that I really like. As long as you get into them when they're early. As they get bigger, it's harder to make nice berms with more plant material growing and bigger root systems. But if you get into it early, you can kind of blend the 2 of them together and have the benefits of both. It all depends on the intended crop and what Mother Nature allows. I would like to say we get to do things exactly when I plan, but I have terminated fairly early sometimes in corn, just being nervous, like if I have a cereal rye or something like that growing, just worried about some allelopathy effects because they will regrow back into the zone eventually. And so I terminate fairly early on corn, probably 8 to 10 inch tall rye. Sometimes soybeans. In my organic, I let the rye go to senescence, and I roll my rye after the beans are up. I roll it with the beans and everything, and that actually is a really, really nice system for me. Basically, strip till, and then the next day I plant. I mean, I basically give it time to air off and then go right to planting, and then rolling all just depends on when it allowed us to get into planting strip tills. Sometimes you're almost to that time period by the time you get in the field anyways, but then there's times you can get in when the rye is only 6 or 8 inches tall too. So it just depends again on when Mother Nature allows us to get in there for those passes. If you wait till it's through pollination, I would say 95% of it with a crimp will be done. I was apprehensive, but I built a roller 2 years ago, and it works fairly well. Overall, I like the strip till system because of nutrient placement. I know a lot of people, it's about the tillage component. It's a nice marriage of the 2. So I like the ability to plant right on top of the nutrients, know they're there. I personally rent some ground sometimes that don't have the nicest soil test, but then I know I can still have a lot of that fertility there for the crop. Another thing I like is when you look at it from a soil disturbance standpoint, you're basically talking 6 to 8 inches of the 30 inches you're probably farming is disturbed. So when you look at it from like fungal hyphae and stuff like that, you're not disturbing everything. So even though you are still working part of the ground. You're not disturbing the whole system. So I do controlled traffic. On my farm, I'm still in the exact same spot I was since 2011. I don't move out of the same strip. So in areas, so call it 22 inches, whatever, I haven't worked that or done anything on a completely controlled traffic compaction and everything in those areas. So there's been a lot of push, towards no-till and regenerative and some of that stuff. So a good part of my acres don't see tillage because I'm following controlled traffic and doing the same thing. As far as the Zimmerman bar, I got to demo one a year ago, and I'd say that the nicest thing for me with them is the ability to adjust a lot of stuff from the cab, where I've never been able to do that before. And then their ability to go through some very tough conditions without plugging. And even though I did have a couple spots where I had some trouble with some corn stalks, a couple evenings when it got late and was damp, I can release the hydraulic pressure on the shanks and trip them and drop out what the issue is, and I don't have to leave the cab. So I've strip-tilled, I've owned my own rig since 2008. We've been strip-tilling since 99, but I would say the biggest change for me is I get 20 to 35% more done a day because I'm in the cab. I mean, you can't get a lot done if you're always working on stuff and unplugging things and moving things, and it's a fatigue factor too. It's been far more enjoyable. I've always loved the results. I haven't always enjoyed the process. And I can only think of a couple little things that happened to mine, and one of them was my own fault as far as a routing issue, but I only ended up doing about 1,400 acres this spring with it. It was my first spring with it, and it was just a lot of time in the cab and a lot of enjoyment, and I haven't had anybody that hasn't been excited about the results. And so it's been a nice change. They do a really nice job. One thing that's nice, I talk with Ray, on a personal level, and if you have issues or if you have suggestions, I've seen things changed on their toolbars that we've talked about in the short time just because of farmer input. And it's just nice to have a company that works on that level. A lot of producers will a lot of companies will make a row unit, and that's what it's going to be for 5 to 7 years until the next one comes out. And these guys have made lots of changes. About every time I come over here, there's something different, and it's usually backdatable. So if you have a bar and it's something, it usually can go still back on that same backbone of a row unit, but you can update and do what they're doing currently. And I like that feature too. And for me, small fields, custom fields, I don't know always what I'm getting into. I like that their row unit can pivot. I've never been able to have that. It takes a lot of horsepower to move around terrace pipes and things like that. A lot of strain on things, and it was really nice this year to be able to go around stuff and do that thing, and you really don't notice a difference in motor on the tractor, fuel usage or anything, because you're not trying to pull a row unit sideways in the ground. And typically strip-till row units have some pretty good length to them. It's hard on the bolts and pins and stuff on the toolbar too. So just a lot less wear and tear, and what I would call more of a duty cycle rig, where it can put in the field, you can run it 100% of the time and keep it moving. You're not spending time in a shop. So I have owned several. The one before it was a Kraus Gladiator, which is also a very nice row unit. They did a good job as far as before these guys built theirs. They were probably one of the last of the game, so they made a lot of decisions and did a lot of nice stuff that people hadn't before them. And the only thing that I really didn't care for on their setup was just a lot of expensive wear parts, and outside of that, they make a nice setup too. And before that, I had my very original one was just a modified anhydrous bar with another tube and a dry box, and was just the start of what I could afford at that time. And then I've owned two different Gladiators, and then I had a Yetter Maverick setup before that too. So I've been around several of them, ran different setups, but so far this one is by far my favorite. And I actually still run a Montag box, but them working with links I think is great too. I think that they are the best as far as dry delivery systems, so it's nice that they're paired together. So as of anything that I deal with any farmers, it basically, how much you're going to use it, where's your budget, how good are you at working on things, do you want something that's very robust and all you have to do is use it and put it back in the barn, or if you're trying to get into it and you don't have a lot of money, what are you willing to do for work? Because a lot of them will do the job, and then a lot of them will do it well, but you will be out there adjusting every single row. You may not even have notches. You might have to use a tape measure, to get it to be the same. When I had my first setups, I would just get one row how I liked it, and then I would build basically like a jig or a tool or a block of wood so I could match the whole rest of the bar. Well, with the new stuff, everything's dialed and indexed. You can do it in a matter of minutes, like their air cleaners on this, air row cleaners on this, you can increase and decrease it from the cab. You don't have to get out and go do a bunch of stuff. So if you're a younger person, you don't have the money or whatever, there's more moderately priced rigs, but they take more work. If you were going to go over a lot of acres, typically strip till's a very short window to get the weather to behave. A bar like this, for my life, it was funny getting the couple of elevators I worked with this year in tune with, I'm going to need fertilizer relatively fast, because usually a strip till bar, it's like, oh, we'll just give you a tender truck for the day and we'll see you later. And when you can consistently do, I was 18 to 20 acres with a 12 row, an hour, this spring I had one of the bigger days lined up, and so by 42 acres, I did more in one day than I've ever done in a single day before. And there's nothing to credit that to other than being in the cab, because my days are always long. So no, that's a huge benefit. So like for me, if a guy's looking into stuff, it's how, we've gotten planners to where they're pure creature comforts and can do everything and monitor everything. I think if that's the kind of farmer you are, this absolutely fits that mold. And then, like I said, if you're getting started into strip till, there's moderately priced rigs that will do the job. It just, you may spend a little bit more time on it, and you may have to modify some things. The guys that like to work on stuff, that never bothered me when I was younger and had to design and rebuild things. But if you have the money and you can see the justification of it's nice to just buy a rig that's turnkey ready and just move with it.
And then in terms of when you're strip tilling, are you doing all of it in the spring?
So I don't. I like to split it up. If a person is going to do all at one time, I'm going to say good luck, because that doesn't always work out well. And then from a management standpoint, there's fields that I don't want strip tilled in the fall and sitting with a strip open all winter. So I concentrate on my farm on the fields that have higher cation exchange capacities, better nitrogen holding ability, and flatter. And then I like to do some of the rougher ground and stuff in the spring where it's not exposed as long, where it's only going to be 3 to 5 days, maybe a week, and there's going to be a planter on it and something growing. So I balance it out that way. And then sometimes it just doesn't work. I've had a couple times where we only got 20 or 30% of what we had planned done in the fall, and it forces it to a spring job regardless whether you wanted it to be or not.